Money is like electricity in your home. You can't see it running through the walls, but if there's even a small leak somewhere, the bill can swell as if someone left the lights on all night. A lot of people spend their whole lives only noticing the final number at the end of the month, never knowing where the current is leaking and never learning how to make it flow back toward them. I'm Miles, and I spend my time breaking down those invisible rules into something you can picture instantly after hearing it once. Picture a random weekday morning. You wake up, open your phone while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. You glance at your investment account, just a habit that doesn't feel like a big deal, and then you freeze for a few seconds. Yesterday, you worked a full 8 hours, and after taxes, you took home about $190. But while you were working, your portfolio climbed by about $260. No lottery, no magic, just an ordinary day. And it still sends a chill up your spine. Because that moment exposes an uncomfortable truth. Money can work for you, and it can even work better than you, if you build the right thing. You can't quit your job yet. You still need your paycheck. But a new thought appears in your head. If this starts happening more often, the roles are shifting. You're still the one running, but now you've got a second runner beside you, and that runner doesn't get tired, doesn't call in sick, doesn't fall apart because of mood or stress. I call that moment the role reversal point. The day money starts pulling ahead and your job starts losing its absolute power over your life. Most people don't even know this day exists, so they never aim for it. They just try to survive 1 month at a time. They trade time for money until their health dips, the job market shifts, then they pray whatever they've saved will be enough. That isn't a plan. That's hope packaged as a routine. If you watch this video to the end, you'll have a clear map to build wealth over time, understand your own money life better, and avoid the traps that keep you working yet still feeling short. I'm not promising quick riches, because that's how people get lured onto the wrong road. I'm promising one thing. You'll know exactly where you are, where you need to go, and roughly how long it takes, using a simple calculation. There's one rule almost nobody says out loud, because it forces people to confront how they spend money every day. The rule sounds small, but its weight isn't small at all. Every extra $100 you add to your monthly spending isn't just $100. It pushes your freedom day farther away, like pulling a rope. The more you pull, the farther it gets. And every $100 you cut from monthly spending isn't about living miserably. It's about buying back your future time, buying back your right to say no. One of the biggest traps today is dopamine spending. You're tired, you buy something to calm your brain, and then you have to work even more to pay for that calm. If you want out of the loop, you need to see your life as two flows. One flow is money going out so you can live. The other flow is money coming in from assets you own. When the incoming flow is small, you have to make up the difference with labor. That's the stage most people call normal. But when the incoming flow starts growing, something strange happens. Your fear of losing your job fades before you're even rich. That's when you realize freedom doesn't arrive as a jump. It arrives as a slope. In part 2, I'll show you those two lines on a whiteboard, and I'll give you a single multiplication that reveals your own role reversal number. You'll see why some people work for 35 years and only reach the finish line right at retirement age, while others pull it forward by more than a decade, even without an insanely high income. And you'll understand why so many young people are getting tired of hustle culture, not because they're lazy, but because they've been running the wrong race. Now, imagine a blank sheet of paper in front of you. The first line is your cost of living, everything it takes to keep you alive each month. Housing, food, transportation, even small stuff like app subscriptions you forgot to cancel. This line usually creeps upward quietly, because spending a little more doesn't hurt right away, but added together it becomes a weight. The second line is money produced by your assets. It keeps working while you sleep, while you're at work, even while you're annoyed at the world. At the beginning, that second line is almost flat against the ground. You put in a few $100s, you watch it move up a few dollars, then the next day it drops again, like it's messing with you. A lot of people quit right here because they want a clear signal. But what you're building is a curve, and the early part of a curve always looks pointless. If you stay patient long enough, you'll see the pace change, not because you did something magical, but because time starts working with you. The role reversal point happens when the line of asset income crosses above the line of your living costs. From that moment, work changes roles, from mandatory to optional. You might still go to work because you like it, because you need the structure, because you want to play a bigger game, but you're no longer trapped in a corner. And to calculate that point, you don't need fancy theory. You just need one realistic number, your actual cost of living, as real as you can make it. There's one extremely simple calculation I want you to remember like a mantra. Take your annual living expenses and multiply by 25. That number is your target asset level where, if you withdraw about $4 per $100 of principal each year, you can live without a paycheck. Let me say it clearly. $4 per $100 of principal means if you have $1 million, you withdraw about $40,000 a year, and the rest still has room to grow and keep up with inflation over time. Let me give you an example so you can picture the mechanism, not so you can compare yourself. If your living costs are $3,000 a month, that's $36,000 a year. Multiply by 25 and you get $900,000. 900,000 sounds huge because you're staring at it like a mountain, but really it's just the price of buying back your right to choose for the rest of your life. What discourages people isn't the big target, it's the feeling that progress is too slow. The first 10 years often feel like boiling water with a candle. You're doing it right, but you can't see the fire. You build a nest egg, but the income from assets is still too small compared to your living costs, so you feel stuck. This is when a lot of people treat themselves with spending, then slide back to the starting line, like pouring water out and complaining the bucket never fills. But once you hit a certain threshold, usually when you have enough invested that the swings start to feel meaningful, your mindset shifts. A day when your portfolio rises by 2% is no longer a few loose dollars, it becomes real money you can feel in your gut. You start respecting the power of time, not because you're optimistic, but because you can see it. And once you see it, you're less likely to panic on red market days. Here's what I want you to hold tight before we go deeper in part 3. The role reversal point isn't only about growing assets, it's also about managing your living costs, because living costs are the anchor dragging you down. If you bring your monthly costs from $3,000 down to $2,500, your target is no longer $900,000. It drops noticeably, and the time you have to run drops with it. But if your costs rise and you don't notice, you're basically adding stones to your backpack, then blaming the hill for being steep. In part 3, I'll tell a short story about someone who isn't a genius, wasn't born rich, but used two very normal levers to pull their role reversal point closer without turning life into self-punishment. I'll also speak directly about what scares people most: market drops, inflation, and bad years. So one shake doesn't destroy your plan. If you've reached this point and you're already asking yourself, where am I on these two lines, you're thinking in the right direction. Let me tell you a story, not a fairy tale, just an ordinary person in an ordinary city who used to believe freedom was something you only saw online. Her name is Emma. She's 29, works an office job, earns enough to get by, but not enough to feel safe. Every month, Emma felt the same familiar thing. The moment her paycheck landed, it seemed to disappear, like water poured into sand. Emma wasn't poor because she was lazy. Emma was poor because she couldn't see the two flows in her life. The day Emma changed wasn't the day she got a raise. It was the day she finally sat down and looked straight at her real cost of living. Emma discovered something almost ridiculous. She wasn't spending huge amounts on one big thing. She was bleeding money across dozens of small things. Each small thing had a reason that sounded perfectly reasonable: to ease stress, to treat herself, to feel like life had a little light in it. But added up, it turned into a massive bill, and that bill stood right in front of the door to freedom. Emma didn't start by cutting every bit of joy, because that would only make her rebound. She started with a cold decision. She wanted to buy back her future, not buy more stuff to forget her future. She moved, not as an escape, but into a place one step cheaper, accepting smaller, a little farther out. She asked a friend to live with her for a while, not because she lacked self-respect, but because she understood housing is the fastest thing that eats your time. When her living costs dropped, something strange happened. Emma could breathe more easily, even though she was doing the same job. Not because she was suddenly good at saving, but because she finally created space. And that space wasn't there to spend more. It was there to feed the second flow, the flow of money produced by assets. Emma set one simple rule. Every month, the moment her paycheck arrived, A portion moved to investing first, and only what remained was allowed to be spent. People asked her how she pulled it off, when everyone is busy, exhausted, and complaining that prices keep rising. Emma's answer was blunt. She didn't treat it like a challenge, she treated it like a survival strategy. When you live in an era where everything invites you to spend, not spending becomes a form of rebellion. Emma started to see trends like dopamine spending as not fun anymore. It felt like slapping tape over a crack. The crack is still there. You just can't see it for a moment. I want you to look closely at the two levers Emma used, because most people miss them. The first lever was lowering her cost of living, pulling the expense line down so the role reversal point moved closer. The second lever was increasing how much money she poured into assets, bending the future income line upward faster over time. These two levers work together, like reducing the load while increasing the pulling force, and that's why the distance shrinks so noticeably. But this story wouldn't be real if I only told you the easy part. Emma got poked right in her biggest fear, the market dropping. There was a stretch where her portfolio fell hard. It looked like a slap in the face, and the natural reflex is to run. Bad news shows up everywhere. People start talking like the world is ending. Red screens make your heart beat faster. And right there, most people destroy their own plan, not because they're stupid, but because they never trained their mindset for that moment. Emma did something that sounds simple, but is brutally hard. She reminded herself she was still in the accumulation phase, not the phase where you withdraw to live. When prices fall, what she buys each month is actually on sale, like walking into a store on discount day. You don't get angry because things are cheaper, you get angry because you don't want to see your balance drop. Emma chose to focus on how much she was buying, not just the total dollar value, and she kept buying consistently, not because she was reckless, but because she had decided to play the long game. Some people will say, Miles, what about inflation? What about living costs rising? Yes, living costs can rise, and your target can drift upward over time. But strong assets also tend to rise over time, because businesses raise prices, money in the economy shifts, and things gradually adjust. What matters isn't finding one number that never changes. What matters is building a system that can adapt. You don't need perfect prediction. You need a direction and enough discipline for that direction to do its work. At this point, I want you to feel something more important than the numbers. As Emma moved forward, even before she reached the role reversal point, she became a different person. She gained the right to say no to meaningless invitations without excuses, just a clean no. She started to feel like her job wasn't a rope around her neck anymore, but a resource to speed up the plan. And for a lot of people, that feeling is worth more than buying another new thing. There's a subtle trap that shows up right when you start improving, the lifestyle upgrade trap. When you earn a little more, you get pulled into upgrading everything. A bigger place, a nicer car, better meals, as proof that you've made it. But every upgrade, if you aren't awake, raises your living costs, which means you push your role reversal point farther away. Emma felt that trap tugging at her too, especially when everyone around her was showing off, living in that recession core mood while still spending like tomorrow doesn't matter, pessimistic and shopping at the same time. Emma escaped the trap with one question that felt cold, but was fair. Does this buy back time for me, or does it only buy a 2-day feeling? If it was only a feeling, Emma delayed it, not banning it, just delaying it to see if the craving would pass. And strangely, most cravings did pass, while the money stayed. And the money that stayed was the thing that pulled the future closer. Here's what I want you to take from this part. The role reversal point isn't the day you become rich. It's the day you start to gain power. That power comes from the distance between you and your bills. The bigger that distance is, the calmer you become. People like to think freedom is a door. You open it and you're done. But in reality, it's a slope. You climb a little at a time, and every step makes life lighter. In part 4, I'll show you how to measure your own distance, not Emma's, and how to shorten it without turning your life into a prison of deprivation. I'll also talk about a special milestone where you're not fully free yet, but your future is almost locked in, like a ticket that's already been printed. If you've gotten this far, and you're starting to see it clearly, the problem isn't that you don't have money. It's that you don't have a map, then you're heading in the right direction. If you've made it this far and you feel your mind clear up even a little, or at least you feel less foggy about money, subscribe to the channel and support Miles with a like. It helps this video get pushed to the exact people stuck in the same loop you've been stuck in. I don't want you to watch this just because it sounds good. I want you to use it, and I want you to use it as soon as possible. Now, we measure your distance in a way that's cold but fair. First, you need your real cost of living, not the number you guess in your head. Look at the last 3 months and ask one simple question. Where did the money actually go? Money doesn't vanish. It just changes hands, from yours to someone else's. Add it up, find your monthly average, and that becomes your expense line, the line that decides the speed of your life. Once you have your average monthly cost, multiply it by 12 to get your annual cost. Then multiply that number by 25. That's your asset target for the role reversal point, where work becomes optional. It sounds big, but it's clear. And clarity is always scarier than vagueness, because clarity forces you to choose. Now look at the assets you already have, money you've put into things that can grow over time. Take your target and subtract what you have today. What's left is the distance. That distance isn't there to panic you, it's there to tell you where you're standing. Without a map, you wander in circles. With a map, you can move straight, even if your steps are still slow. At this point, a lot of people ask, Miles, how long will it take me? I'll be honest, the timeline depends on how fast you pump money into assets and whether your living costs rise or fall. You don't need a complicated formula to start. You just need a blunt estimate of how much you can invest each month. The moment you know that number, you start seeing the road. And seeing the road means you've already won half the battle. But listen closely to this part, because this is where people break their plan. Don't turn your life into a prison of saving. Saving by self-punishment makes you snap back, and then you spend to compensate harder than before. The goal isn't to live miserably. The goal is to design a life that's good enough, but doesn't let living costs hold you hostage. The smart move is to cut what doesn't bring long-term value, not to cut every kind of joy. Some spending makes you healthier, helps you learn faster, keeps you sustainable, and that can be an investment in yourself. But some spending is only there to numb emotions for one night, and the next day you feel empty again. That kind of spending is you selling your future cheaply. You don't need to become perfect. You just need to stop paying for things that make you weaker. I use one question to check myself, and it sounds cold, but it saves people. Does this purchase buy me more freedom, or does it buy me more obligations? If it buys more obligations, it pushes your role reversal point farther away. It turns 1 month into 2, 2 into 6, and you won't feel it immediately. That's the trap. It doesn't hurt right away, so you assume it isn't dangerous. Now, I want to give you a middle milestone, something that changes how people feel about life even before they reach the role reversal point. I call it the breathing point, where even if you stop adding more money, your assets still have the ability to grow over time and hit your target later. In simple terms, you've planted enough seeds, and time can do the rest, as long as you don't destroy the system. For example, if you still have 30 years until retirement age, and you've already built a large enough base, then even if you slow down your investing, that base can still grow because of time. Once you reach the breathing point, you gain a rare kind of power. You can choose a lighter job, a less toxic environment, a less stressful pace, without feeling like you're committing financial suicide. You're not fully free yet, but you're no longer living with a gun to your back. A lot of young people feel burned out, not because they're weak, but because they've been trying to live like they have to win immediately. Hustle culture was sold like a dream, but if you look closely, it's really just a way to make you tie your self-worth to productivity. When you reach the breathing point, you separate yourself from that machine. You start living like a human being, not like a money printer for someone else. But here's the important warning. The breathing point isn't a license to drift and hope. It's a choice. You can use it to heal, to learn, to live better, or you can use it to upgrade your living costs and drag yourself back to the starting line. Freedom always comes with discipline. Not the discipline of self-punishment, but the discipline of knowing exactly what you're doing. If you're still listening, subscribe to the channel and support Miles with a like. Because part 5 is the most important part, the part that makes you see every spending decision through a different set of eyes. I'm going to give you a simple perspective, sharp enough to cut through every excuse you've ever used to comfort yourself. And I'll end with the image of an ordinary morning, where you open your phone and realize you've come a long way without any magic. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel and support Miles with a like. Not because I need praise, but because the algorithm only speaks one language, and that language is signals. Every subscription pulls one more person out of the fog, and every like gives this video a push toward the people who actually need it. Now, we're at the part that locks everything into place in your head. I want you to remember this. Every purchase decision has two prices. The first price is the money you pay right now. The second price is the freedom time you sell, and because you can't see it with your eyes, you tend to pretend it doesn't exist. You buy something because it makes you feel like you deserve it. That feeling is real, I'm not denying it. But if you don't control it, you'll start using that feeling like a painkiller, taking a dose every week. And when you look back, you'll realize you spent more on the painkiller than you spent on your future. You're not poor because you bought one thing. You're poor because you bought a habit. Here's the way I want you to see it clearly. When your cost of living goes up, your role reversal target goes up with it. A bigger target means you need to save and invest more, and needing more means you have to work longer. So, an upgrade isn't just an upgrade. It's a contract that extends the amount of time you'll be forced to work, signed with your emotions while you're exhausted. Let me give you an example so your brain can feel the truth. Suppose one spending choice costs you an extra $15,000 compared to the more reasonable choice. That number doesn't stay still. If it's put into assets and given time, it can grow. And it doesn't grow by adding a little at a time. It grows by stacking on itself. So what you lose isn't just 15,000. What you lose is the years that 15,000 should have been working for you. This is why I say the role reversal point isn't just a money goal. It's a measure of personal power. As you get closer to it, you feel less fear, you bow your head less, you tolerate less. You don't have to wait until the day you're completely free to start living. You'll feel it step by step, like a staircase, where each step is another bill that your assets start carrying for you. Some people will ask, Miles, do I have to live like a monk? No, you just need to live like someone who knows what they're actually buying. Some things are worth buying because they buy health, knowledge, energy, time, but some things only buy an image, approval, the feeling of winning for one day, then losing again tomorrow. When you can separate those two, you start getting richer without becoming an unbearable person. I also want you to remember something about fear. For many people, the biggest fear isn't being poor. It's the feeling that you'll never get out. And that feeling comes from not having a clear number, not having a map, only having exhaustion. When you have the number, even if it's big, you can still breathe because you know where you're headed. Right now, I want you to do something very specific. Even if it's only in your head, think about the last time you almost bought something just because you were tired, just because you felt lacking, just because you wanted to forget a bad day. Next time, before you buy, ask one question. Does this pull me closer to freedom or push me farther away? If you can't answer immediately, delay it for 24 hours. Just one day, so the emotion can settle, so you don't sign a long-term contract with a short-term mood. Now I'm going back to the opening image. An ordinary morning, you're waiting for the kettle, phone in your hand. You see your assets produced a number without asking anyone's permission. It's not enough to vanish from your job overnight, but it's enough to prove you're not standing still anymore. You're not just someone running. You're building something that runs with you. And then one day comes, no fireworks, no announcement, nobody clapping. You look at the two flows and you realize they crossed. The role reversal point isn't the moment you become the richest person. It's the moment you become the hardest person to control. Because from that moment on, you have choice. And choice is the most expensive luxury of this century. If this video helped you see money differently, subscribe to the channel and support Miles with a like. I'll keep making videos like this, simple, clear, no fear tactics, no fantasies, just a map you can actually walk. I'll see you in the next one.